It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, where they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish back with you for our edition of an action-packed show recapping everything that happened in a wild night of the National Basketball Association. So stay tuned to that. We're going to have some reaction from what happened last night, especially from some of the main contributors and participants. Is LeBron James on the verge of getting knocked out of the playoffs again? How about the Philadelphia 76ers? Wow, blowing a big lead against the New York Knicks. You know what? We got so much to get to here on the show. Let's just get started without further ado. We have some great guests, sporting news, legal sports report. Of course, we're going to break it all down for you. But first and foremost, let's talk about these games that happened last night. You may have missed it, but boy, LeBron James, oldest player in the NBA, still at it again last night and almost willed his way to a win over the Denver Nuggets. But Jamal Murray hit a game-winning shot last night that proved to be the difference. The final 101-97. The Lakers did cover the spread. 7 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Some places had 6.5 as well. The Nuggets climbing in terms of that point spread. But right now, Denver has taken a commanding 2-0 series lead in this series. And honestly, it looks a lot like last year's series where the Lakers played close, but just not close enough to capture a game. Can they win a game in this series? Still remains to be seen. But of course, after the game ended, LeBron James not happy with the outcome, but naturally they will head back to L.A. for Game 3.
I mean, yeah, of course it's a heartbreaking game. You don't ever want to lose in that fashion. I don't understand what's going on in the replay center, to be honest. I think I said it this year or last year, whatever. D'Lo clearly gets hit in the face on a drive. What the fuck do we have a replay center if it's going to go? It doesn't make sense to me. It makes no sense to me. It bothers me. I'm sorry I didn't answer your question, but that is like. And then I just saw what happened with the Sixers Knicks game too. What are we doing?
LeBron James very rarely going after officiating and going after the replay room, but we did see it last night, not only for his own game, as you heard there, but also with that 76ers Knicks game as well. Speaking of which, boy, you got to say Philadelphia did everything they possibly could do to win in the Garden. but they just could not get it done late with a big lead. Dante DiVincenzo with some huge buckets late. By the way, let's give the 76ers credit. No one wants to hear that in Philadelphia today for covering the 6-point spread. But the Knicks do take a 2-0 lead in this series. Joel Embiid doing everything possible to keep spirits high with the 76ers as they head back to Philadelphia, all but not coming up a little bit short of guaranteeing that they will still be in and maybe win the series.
You guys have gotten a timeout in?
Yes, we did. I mean, everybody on the floor was trying to call a timeout, myself including Nico, coach on the sideline. But they didn't give it to us. But, forget about the timeout. There's a bunch of fouls. Like I said, that's unacceptable.
How do you try to bounce back as you guys head home and try to turn this thing around?
We should be 2-0, so, we're good. We're going to win this series. We're going to win this. We know what we got to fix. We did a better job today, so we're going to fix it. But we're the better team, and we're going to keep fighting.
Pretty sure he did say they're going to win the series. So, not even coming up short, sort of throwing down the gauntlet. I don't know about that, being down 0-2 in that series. Speaking of which, I don't think you're going to hear anybody on the Orlando Magic saying they're going to win the series. My gosh, they're getting clobbered by Cleveland in this best of 7. Cleveland now up 2-0, went under the total. Cavs cover the spread yet again. And right now, let's just be honest. The Magic look like a team that's being outclassed by more of a veteran squad. Donovan Mitchell individually talked about how he can play better for Cleveland.
I'm sure you feel like you could play as a team better, but are you
much better
with the way these 2 games have gone?
No. I think there's a level that we can continue to improve at. I think the fourth quarter, last 8-7 minutes or so, can't happen. You know what I mean? We're fortunate we got the win. We did a lot of good things, but the challenge is we got to fix that. You know what I mean? It starts with me. I hold myself to that standard, and those last 6, 7, 8 minutes were on me. I got to do my job. And obviously I scored when I needed to, made the right play or whatever, but that can't happen. And that starts with me. And, it's great. We got the win. We're up 2-0, but we're not looking just to be up 2, looking to be perfect. You know what I mean? And there's no such thing as perfection, but you continuously want to chase it. And if I'm not doing my job, then that's kind of my mode right now. I started out great and didn't really do, my thing throughout the course of the game. I did a lot of different things, but I could be better for the group, as a whole, and I will be.
Right. That's what you say to motivate yourself when you're up 2-0. Best of 7 series. Orlando has not played well, let's be honest. All right, tonight's game, Los Angeles Clippers, Dallas Mavericks, Kawhi Leonard, we got a questionable tag on him. Participated in practice on Monday. Ty Lue said no contact, so we'll see what ends up happening tonight. All right, J.J. Redick is interviewing for the Hornets head coaching position. Of course, Redick, you may be familiar with him, 16-year NBA veteran, retired from the NBA in 2021. He's been a broadcaster at ESPN and hosts a podcast as well. We'll see if he gets his first opportunity to become a head coach. Meanwhile, the saga draws on with the ownership group for the Minnesota Timberwolves. In fact, they're heading to a mediation. The Lore/Alex Rodriguez group had apparently come to an agreement to purchase the team. They, according to the current owner, Glenn Taylor, did not make the payments that they needed to be made. It felt like he backed out of it. Called for an automatic 90-day extension to obtain NBA approval. Mediation is the first step in the process of finding a resolution to this conflict. And also the NBA, by the way, broke 6 ties among the 15 teams for this year's NBA draft, which will be held on June 26th and June 27th. Finally, it appears Zach Wilson's going to have a new home. Not going to be backing up Aaron Rodgers this upcoming season. There are reports that state he's being traded to the Denver Broncos, and there will be a pick swap here and also splitting the money. $5.5 million due this season. Each team will play $2.75 million. Denver still looking for a starting quarterback. Who knows if Wilson will be given an opportunity to win that job with the upcoming training camp. Matt Ryan has officially retired. Ryan has been a broadcaster for CBS, but did not file his retirement papers until this week. Ends his NFL career. It lasted 14 years, 65,000 passing yards. Whether or not he gets into the Pro Football Hall of Fame still remains to be seen. A contract extension has been given to Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, so speculation that last year would be his final year or this year would be his final year, you can throw that out. He's got a few more years on his deal. And in the NHL, the Hurricanes defeated the Islanders in Game 2, storming back to win 5-3, and they have a 2-0 lead in the series. In Major League Baseball yesterday, you don't often see a manager thrown out of a game because of something a fan said, but apparently that's what happened with Aaron Boone. Esteury Ruiz was hit by a pitch on an 0-2 count, but the Yankees dugout thought Ruiz swung at it. Boone communicated his disapproval, but it looked like it was one of the fans that was yelling. It was sort of incredible to see on Yes Network. Regardless, the protest for the umpire, Wendelstedt, did not go his way. They threw him out of the game. And whether or not Boone talked in that spot, hard to say, but he did give his displeasure, you would say, right before he got tossed from the game. Ronald Acuna Jr. is now the all-time stolen base leader for the Atlanta Braves. He passes Rafael Furcal. 190 career steals moves him past him. How about the Philadelphia Phillies playing some great baseball right now? Ranger Suarez scoreless streak reached 25 innings, 7-0 win for Philadelphia over the Texas Rangers. Phillies playing incredible in the month of April, which is not something that we've seen in the past. Unfortunately, the Rays have lost their closer, Pete Fairbanks. He was placed on the 15-day injured list. He's off to a very disappointing start for the Tampa Bay Rays. That's the latest news, notes, and headlines that we have for you. But coming up next, what to make of these series in the National Basketball Association. Kyle Irving from Sporting News is going to join us right after this break. We'll see if we can get some positions on tonight's games as well. Don't go away.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He was like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got Kyle Irving from Sporting News getting ready to break down all the games in the National Basketball Association. And Kyle, yesterday I thought we got our money's worth. Not that we're paying for this unless you're streaming somewhere on the side. But fun games in the NBA, including some fantastic finishes. By the way, Kyle, a lot of complaining going on with the referees and the replay. Would you agree with some of the sentiments from Joel Embiid, LeBron James?
Well, it's tough for, two teams that blew the leads that the 76ers and Los Angeles Lakers did to, go into the post-game press conference and be complaining about the refereeing. I don't think they were necessarily wrong on some of the things they were complaining about. I agree with what LeBron James was saying, that D'Angelo Russell was definitely hitting the head on that play by Michael Porter Jr. The 76ers, that kind of implosion on the inbound play at the end there, I'm not so sure that would have warranted a foul call. It kind of feels like Tyrese Maxey flopped around a little bit there and, the ball popped loose, and that's how, the cookie crumbles. But, after losing a game that you blew a lead like the 76ers did, or the Lakers who blew their largest lead of the season, it's hard to, hard for me to feel bad for anybody going into the press conference and immediately complaining about the officiating.
Yeah, I would agree. At least no complaining going on in this Cleveland-Orlando series. Kyle, I was surprised. I didn't think the Magic were going to win the series, but it's been non-competitive. This game looked over yesterday. I was watching some of this at the half, so I tuned out. 96-86, the final there. Cleveland is now up 2-0 in the series. I mean, I guess I expect Orlando to play better at home. I'm just not sure right now. I mean, you've watched a lot more than this than I have. Have you identified any? I mean, Cleveland looks like who they were or who they are, but Orlando does not. So what's going on here?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue, Orlando has held Cleveland under 100 points in each of the first two games. They're playing great defense. They just can't get anything going offensively. And, it was kind of a known thing going into this series that their glaring issue is they're lacking that true wing scorer, someone they can just give them the ball, go get a bucket, and get out of the way. Paulo Banchero is supposed to be that guy, but he's also a little bit of a facilitator. And in his first playoff series as a rookie, he's pressing. He only has 8 assists to 15 turnovers. Franz Wagner, his three-point shot has completely abandoned him. He's supposed to be the number 2 guy who can put up numbers for them when Paulo doesn't have it going. So, I just think it's an offensive issue for Orlando because they're playing good defense, but, they failed to break 90 in each of these first two games, even though they're holding Cleveland under 100.
Yeah, no, I think so. I'm looking forward to seeing Orlando in the next one because, again, obviously, if they don't play well, I mean, that's a wrap there. I do think the Sixers are going to respond here. I don't know why, Kyle. I do think that this series is far from over. The Knicks have basically had to, I would say, use every single piece of energy and get every big shot to beat Philly twice, cover once, 104-101 the final there. So Philly does cover. The total was 205. The Knicks are up to a 2-0 lead. And listen, I think at this point it'd be foolish for me to say that the Sixers are going to come back and win the series, but I don't think that this is over by any means.
I completely agree there. I would not be shocked if this series goes back to New York for Game 5 and it's tied 2-2. It really feels like the Garden willed those victories into existence, the one on Saturday and the one last night, especially with that play at the end there. But, I mean, Jalen Brunson is shooting under 30% from the field, and the Knicks are up 2-0 in the series. That is absolutely ridiculous. I give a ton of credit to Josh Hart, who is only 6'4", and he is leading the entire series in rebounding so far. He's knocked down 4 threes in each of the first two games. He's played 90 out of 96 minutes in this series. He's been the X factor for New York. Obviously, Dante DiVincenzo hit that massive 3 last night to push them over the edge. But, I expect Philly to bounce back at home. This feels like a series that should go, 6, maybe 7 games. But that also hinges on the idea that, Joel Embiid can stay healthy and play in every game in this series. Because, again, he was kind of hobbling last night. And I think especially at the end of the game there where, he let up a couple of those rebounds, I feel like he normally gets to those.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so now here's a series I think we both would agree is going to be over. It's just a matter of time. I don't know who's going to beat Denver. I mean, I guess they're going to lose a game in the playoffs last night. A good example of anything can happen in any game. Denver pulled another one out, 101-99 in that one. It's just a matter of time that before Denver moves on. I mean, I suppose LA can cover a game or two here or there, Kyle. This team is so dominant right now. I mean, can Oklahoma City give them a series? Can somebody else in the West give them a series? Because I just don't see it in 7 games right now.
Yeah, talk about a shot to the heart for the Lakers last night. 10 straight losses against the Nuggets. I mean, you feel like you finally are going to, end that streak. Anthony Davis has it going. He was ridiculous all night. D'Angelo Russell hit 7 threes. LeBron was getting it done on both ends of the floor. Jamal Murray, who didn't have it going all night long, is the one that knocks down that shot. And, that kind of raises the question of, what player in NBA history who has not been an all-star has made as many big shots as Jamal Murray has in the playoffs, had as many big moments as Jamal Murray has in the playoffs? And, that you'd want to trust in that situation, the way that Jokic was clearing out the entire side of the floor to give him that shot, even though he didn't have it going. Anthony Davis only one field goal attempt in the fourth quarter is inexcusable. Like I said earlier in the show, that's, the largest blown lead for the Lakers this entire season, blowing that 20-point lead. So, if it wasn't going to go down for them last night, I really don't know how they even take a game off the Nuggets in this series. I think it's going to be more competitive going back to LA. I would hope that they can get one of those games just to kind of give us a little bit of a series here. But, like you said, Denver looks unstoppable right now.
Yeah, they do. All right, we're going to roll through these games real quick. I think we got about 40 seconds for each game if we can do it. Phoenix at Minnesota. FanDuel's adjusted the line from game one. They've adjusted the second one, too, which we'll get to. Minnesota, 3-point favorites against Phoenix tonight. What do you make of this one?
I like Minnesota. I just like the energy they brought in that first game. Anthony Edwards is looking unstoppable. Phoenix is going to have to throw different defenders at him to try and find an answer because, he's playing with an unwavering confidence that we saw when, he had a little something to say for Kevin Durant at the end of that game the other night.
All right. Indiana at Milwaukee. FanDuel has flipped the line. Indiana was favored in game one. Milwaukee's favored in game two. Look, I cannot imagine. I mean, that was the biggest disappointment to me in game one was Indiana. Can they get back to who they were during the regular season?
I think they can. Tyrese Halliburton just needs to take more than 7 shots, though. They held Damian Lillard to 0 points after he exploded in the first half. But I actually think that we might see the first road team get a win tonight with Indiana taking down Milwaukee.
And then finally, the coin flip series, Dallas on the road at the Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers, no problem in game one, still getting points game two.
Yeah, I think this is one where, they've afforded a little bit of patience with Kawhi Leonard's injury. I don't know if he's going to play tonight. The line kind of suggests that, he won't be. I think Dallas bounced back tonight. It was kind of a disappointing showing from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving the other day. But I think that Dallas bounces back and they tie this thing up 1-1 going back to Dallas.
Yeah, we got it all in. All right, great stuff, Kyle, as always. Appreciate you. We'll talk again next week.
Thank you, Craig.
All right, SportsGrid Sound Off is next.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, where they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Dominating tonight.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It's time now for our daily segment, our SportsGrid Sound Off, where we recap everything happening in the National Basketball Association and certainly everything happening in sports as well. Bottom line for the Los Angeles Lakers as we begin is they're up against it yet again in the same scenario as they were a year ago against the Denver Nuggets. It's certainly been a struggle for them, although they were within a bucket of tying or even winning the game last night in Denver as they move this series back to Los Angeles. Of course, one of the main contributors is Jamal Murray for the Denver Nuggets, but according to the Los Angeles Lakers, the main contributors are the replay room and the officials. And it is getting ugly right now for LeBron James and company. You may have seen the press conference clip that we just showed where he was not happy with the outcome of the game yesterday, going to replay. And the same could be said for his teammate Anthony Davis, who was asked about the final play and had a very specific statement as to how the game ended.
They went 7 for 7 over the final 4 minutes. I guess without being able to look at the film and kind of evaluate it in the moment, did it feel like you guys were playing pretty good defense and it was just tough shot making by them, or did you feel like you guys had some breakdowns there in crunch time?
They made some tough shots. I think we played pretty good defense. They made some really tough shots.
To kind of piggyback off that one, can you take us through that last play and just what happened and what unfolded? What was, I don't know if you were screened or what happened on that last play?
Jamal Murray made a shot.
Anthony Davis not happy. I've always said, by the way, that wearing sunglasses in the post game will get you your way with the refs in the next game there. I don't know, was that post game outside? I don't know, but Anthony Davis wearing the shades. I should have put mine on for to come back. It would have been a good idea for the show as well. We'll see. Usually what happens is you complain a little bit like the Lakers are doing, and then the next game you get the calls. It's sort of the way that it works, but we will see. All right, now let's talk a little bit about continuity in the National Basketball Association. And, honestly, we've seen some good games, but we've seen teams that have played with each other end up having success. That could definitely be said for Cleveland thus far. They're up 2-0 in the series. You could say the same for the New York Knicks, as they've had their team mostly healthy, I think, over the course of the season. And if you missed the early line this morning with Donnie Rightside and Davis Maddock, who's filling in for Ben Stevens, Davis says that one of the main reasons why we're seeing some teams have success is only because of the continuity of the players who are playing with each other over the course of the regular season.
I think it's also a real indication of how important continuity is. I mean, this is the same rotation that they had in the playoffs last year with Peyton Watson subbing in for Bruce Brown. Other than that, it is the same 8 guys who play every single night. That is a huge advantage in the NBA. Like, these guys know they've had the same coach. They've had the same defensive coach. They've had the same offensive coordinator. They know their sets. Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I mean, I would love to see this. What would happen if they just played with their eyes closed for like 4 minutes of a stretch of an NBA game? I bet they would pretty much know where to be. Murray knows where Jokic wants the ball. Jokic knows where his shooters are going to be. That's part of the reason why Jokic is such a great passer. He knows where his teammates are going to be. He knows their tendencies. He knows where they want the ball. The Lakers roster is the exact opposite. I mean, they are chopping and changing. They're changing the starting lineup. Oh, Hachimura's in. Oh, we're going to play Taurean Prince. Prince is going to close. Gabe Vincent, who is not fully healthy, has to play with this knee injury, scores 0 points in 15 minutes.
Gabe Vincent from the Heat last year. Now, of course, the Denver Nuggets playing with all of the same players they played against the Heat last year. Meanwhile, we've got some big games tonight in the National Basketball Association. Here's Coach Young with a breakdown.
Thanks, Craig. With 3 games tipping off tonight in the NBA playoff, here is my coach's view. 3 things I'm looking for teams that lost game number 1 in order to try and even up their series. First off, for Phoenix, I'm looking at Grayson Allen and Jusuf Nurkic, 2 players that did not play well in game 1, particularly Jusuf Nurkic, who allowed Rudy Gobert to get 16 rebounds. Jusuf has to control the glass and win the rebounding war. For Indiana, I'm looking at a faster start. A team that looked too big for the moment, looked a little scared, a little timid, particularly in the first half, played better in the second half. Look at Tyrese Halliburton to get off to a better start, only taking 7 shots in game number 1. Lastly, for Dallas, I'm looking at Tim Hardaway Jr., a prolific scorer who did not score in game number 1. They need that third option because you know that Luke and Kyrie will give you 30+. Those are my 3 keys for the game tonight. Back to you, Craig.
Thanks, Coach. Should be some big games tonight, as Coach said. Keep an eye on that Dallas-LA game this evening. Coming up next, Matthew Waters joins us from Legal Sports Report. Stay on the grid.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He was like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Matthew Waters joins us each and every week from Legal Sports Report. We're going to dive into the latest in Delaware and also talk about very specifically how these same-game parlays on these sports betting apps have certainly changed the way that we view sports betting. And Matt is here with us. We're going to recap everything happening as well as this story going on with Penn Gaming and Penn Entertainment. Matt, thanks for coming on the show. Great to see you again.
Yeah, hey, I wasn't sure I was going to survive the end of that Sixers game last night. I did, and I'm here. Am I happy? No, but I'm here. So always happy to see you, though, Craig.
All right, well, thanks, man. And headed back to Philadelphia. I'm sure you'll have better luck watching those games there coming up later this week. All right, so, a fascinating move at the hierarchy for Penn to see an individual from Disney, which has not been a company that is huge in favor of sports betting, especially here in Florida, Matt. They don't want to have anything to do with sports betting. They want to keep Disney World going strong, stay away from sports bets, use your money on us, not on them, right? You've heard that before. So an executive here from Disney goes to Penn. What do you make of this move here? Is this an upward move, by the way, for this individual, or just someone trying to jump into the sports gaming universe?
You know, it's really interesting what we have going on here, Craig, because obviously Disney is Penn's partner in ESPN Bet. So you have to wonder how this conversation went down and when it really started. You look at it from Penn's perspective, they knew that they were losing Benji Levy, the head of their interactive division, in April. Benji is part of the Levy family that owned The Score, which Penn bought for $2 billion back in 2021. And so Penn has known that this was coming to an end for the Levy family here and that they were going to be moving on. And an interesting point came out last month at a forum where Penn CEO Jay Snowden said that they had picked the new lead of their interactive division and that he had already weighed in on the roadmap for ESPN Bet. That was really interesting because obviously you're not going to get into specifics about what's going on with your brand when you're just in for an interview, right? So that kind of said, oh, this guy must be related to Penn somehow. And now we see that it was the chief technology officer of Disney, Aaron LaBerge. And so I think the fact that they're bringing over somebody who has already been involved in this game planning and scheming for ESPN Bet, I think that's a huge win for Penn. And the stock market agrees. The stock was up about 5% in early trading this morning. And that just tells you that, look, people are happy to see this move. It's hard to be disappointed when you talk about getting an executive from Disney for almost any role in your company, right? When you talk about big companies that do stuff right, Disney's one of them. And so this is definitely, so strip out the fact that he was already related to ESPN Bet in some way. Getting a name from Disney is huge. So I think this is a massive win for Penn. Look, Penn is focused on two main things, right? On the Penn side of ESPN Bet, they're focused on getting their parlay product better and deeper enough to compete with DraftKings and FanDuel when it comes back time for NFL and college football betting this season. On the Disney side, they're focused on that integration. They're focused on getting sports betting integrated into the ESPN app. And Craig, we've talked about it before. The parlays are important. Obviously, you're not going to, hold your market, your customers that come over. You're not going to hold them. You're not going to retain them if the product isn't there. But the fact that this is all coming together now, I think this is really good for ESPN Bet. I think this is really going to be positive. Now, I've read a report this morning, Craig, that ESPN Bet in March has about 8% of handle when you strip out all the promotions that they've been giving away. Those promotions are coming down. So that's good enough for fourth right now in the hierarchy when you look at that stat. FanDuel was first, DraftKings was second, BetMGM was just ahead of ESPN Bet, and then you had Caesars behind ESPN Bet. That 8% mark isn't bad. Look, they said in 3 years they want to be somewhere between 10 and 20% of market share. So if they're going to get and stay at ESPN at 8 for now for ESPN Bet, that's looking pretty good to get to where they want to go. This is a 10-year deal between Penn and Disney. And so they can opt out at 3 years. And if they don't, I think it's 7 years at that point that they could opt out again. But everything right now is trending the right way. And so you're looking at, can they get those parlays going? And can they get that integration in the ESPN Bet, in the ESPN app figured out to let you access ESPN Bet right from there, place your bet, and go? We had that survey from Truist that came out not too long ago where like 98% of people that were interested in seeing that integration into ESPN said that if they get it right, it either will or probably will become their sports book of choice. So a lot is still hinging here on how exactly Penn pulls off the product. But so far, it's lining up pretty nicely.
Yeah, and if Penn could just basically live off these same game parlays like everybody else, they'll have a ton of success. I mean, these are staggering numbers for these same game parlays. I'm glad you brought it to the show today. 262 million same game parlay bets across Flutter's key brands, FanDuel, of course, being one of them. 262 million same game parlays. I mean, Matt, I don't want to say that there are 262 million suckers out there. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
No. Well, and
but
I
mean, come on. Like, you got to be better than that, no?
Yeah, and that 262 million same game bets, that was only in the fourth quarter. That's only October, November, December. And that's up almost 75% from the year before. It was interesting. Flutter over the weekend, or right before the weekend, they kind of dropped this press release on their website almost. And there wasn't a whole lot of fanfare about it, but it talked about how same game parlays have really changed the sports betting business and where it came from and how it started in 2014 over in Australia and eventually went live in 2016 with the Australian Football League. But yeah, there's some really interesting details in here because when you're betting parlays lose more often than the straight bets because you have to hit more straight bets than just one to win, right? And so they're bumping up your margin. They're bumping up how much profit you can pull out of sports betting. You know, when sports betting was just fresh in the US in 2018, and we had this legislative push to get sports betting live in states, we said that sportsbooks held about 5% of the bets at that point. And now it's getting closer to 9, 10, 11% and going up as more of this mix turns into same game parlays. And not just same game parlays, but then you get to the point, Craig, where you're able to parlay multiple same game parlays. I mean, it's like an ATM for these sports books. And look, when the winners hit, they love it, right? Because you're making buco bucks off of that 5, 10, 15 bucks you put down to wager on the parlay. You're obviously way above that when you're talking about these same game parlays for wins, but you know, more often than not, you're not winning. And so these sports books love same game parlays. They love how it's changing the industry. They love how it's changing their financials. And we definitely have not seen the end of same game parlay innovation for sure.
No, we have not. All right, real quick, let's end here. A state you're very familiar with, Delaware, against expanding sports betting operators there. The question most people would have is, why are they against this, Matt?
They're against it, Craig, because just last year they ran an RFP to select a new solo operator for iGaming and sports betting in the state. This was a disjointed effort between the Delaware Lottery and the Delaware Legislature. And now the Delaware Legislature, of course, multiple sports books are better for the market. It creates a competitive marketplace. Of course, everyone knows that at this point. It's not something you suggest after you just signed a potential 10-year contract with another operator. So we'll see what happens with Delaware, but it's a mess right now.
Yeah. All right, Matt, great stuff. I'm going to go get my same game parlay in, and I'll see you again next time on the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All right, coming up next, the Zurich Classic on the PGA Tour, played in New Orleans, not Zurich. Brady Kannon's up next.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He was like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, what do they call it? A Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
Always fun to have Brady Kannon with us here on NewsWire because naturally the PGA Tour is red hot right now. Although the ratings would say differently, I guess, over the last couple of weeks. The RBC had to go through a delay to get this done on Monday. And then, of course, the Masters ratings came out. They weren't as good. And, I mean, Brady, I guess the bottom line here with the PGA Tour and sort of where things are at, I don't think, by the way, this has anything to do with Live Golf and the silly narrative that some of the players went there. I don't think that that's the case. Is that we love dynastic performances. We're going through a dynasty with one player on the PGA Tour right now, Scotty Scheffler, who came back to win at the RBC Heritage late in the tournament, but early on Monday morning. And somehow this is boring for golf, I guess. Why? Why is that the case? Because usually dominance leads more people to watch tournaments, watch sports. In the NFL era of the 49ers and Washington and the Giants and Patrick Mahomes and Brady, people watched Tiger Woods. Why are they not interested in Scotty Scheffler? He's as dominant as Tiger was.
Well, it's a great question, Craig. And first of all, I think the Masters results were a little bit tainted because it seems like every year that goes by, there are more options in how to view the event than in the past. It used to be you had to tune in to the TV. Now you have other, streaming services like Paramount Plus and ESPN Plus, and you've got masters.com. There was a time where prior to, the coverage beginning on TV, you had to simply go to the website, masters.com, to watch there. And so how many millions of people were doing that and maybe just stayed on there for the rest of the broadcast or what have you? So I think there are some nuances there in the results that could, make those numbers maybe look worse than they really are. But with Scotty, we're going to see where this goes probably with the PGA Championship. That is the next real big event. The week prior, you do have another signature event, the Wells Fargo at Quail Hollow Club in North Carolina. That's a big boy tournament for sure. We don't know if Scotty will even be around until the PGA, and who knows, he could possibly skip that because he should be becoming a father any day now. You wonder how much time he's going to take after the birth of that child, to be a dad and maybe be away from the golf course for a couple, 3 weeks. So that's all a bit unknown right now. But I think some of it has to do with the fact that he lacks a little bit of the flair and the charisma of a Tiger or a Jordan Spieth or, like you say, Patrick Mahomes. Now, I think Scotty is a very likable character. If you saw some of his press conferences after the Heritage, he was joking around. He's a very normal guy. He talked about going back home and playing a few golf games with his buddies and gambling on the course. And, there's a little bit of that element of the faith. And sometimes that turns some people off, but I don't think it's overloaded. And I don't think he lays that on too thick. I think all around he's a very likable guy, but maybe he doesn't move the needle where he's polarizing. Maybe that's what's wrong with him. He's too perfect. So those are just theories. But if he starts to catch a little more fire, if he wins the PGA, Craig, boy, who knows where we're going? He was at 80-1 to complete the Grand Slam this year, win all 4 majors. After he won the Heritage, he went to 50-1. And I just looked last night, he's down to 40-1. So some people are betting on that to happen.
That's crazy. We have so much more time to go on the tour. But he can't win this week, right? Because if you don't play, you can't win. Is that correct?
That's correct. Right. Every putt that you leave short won't go in.
Okay. You can't play if you don't. You can't win if you don't play. So the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Okay. I'm curious about sort of how you feel about this. I know this is sort of different format, if I'm not mistaken, going into the weekend, and not everybody is playing in this one. Although there are some bigger names. I see Zalatoris playing here, Xander, Rory McIlroy as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice break from the monotony. We've played 16 straight weeks on tour of a standard stroke play event. We come off of the Masters and a signature event at Harbor Town. And now everybody kind of gets to relax in the Big Easy and have some fun in New Orleans. It's a team event. It's about camaraderie. And yeah, there's some certainly attractive names in the field. Rory McIlroy, Shane Lowry, Colin Morikawa, Nikolai and Rasmus Højgaard are playing together as twin brothers. Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick are playing together as a team of brothers. So there's some fun storylines. You mentioned Zalatoris and Theegala, but it's nice to kind of relax for a minute and play something a little bit different, something a little bit new, something a bit more casual. And, before we get back into, like I say, the Wells Fargo and the PGA Championship, and we're going at full steam ahead once again. It's a very interesting event as far as, betting formats or betting approach. I dumbed down the risk quite a bit this week because it's very difficult to predict. We're trying to pick one guy and one skill set that matches a particular golf course. Now you have a two-person dynamic. And they alternate shots. I mean, how do you quantify something like that? So, I'm going to play this one easy. I'm going to relax a little bit too and be much more casual this week. But the first day on Thursday and Saturday, they will play best ball, meaning each player will hit their own ball on the team, and whoever has the lower score of the two, that becomes the team score. On Friday and Sunday, they will play alternate shot. Colin Morikawa will tee off, Kurt Kitayama will hit the second shot, and back and forth until the ball is holed, and then that becomes your team score. So, it's very similar to what we see on a Ryder Cup format. It's a lot of fun. It's cool. But from a betting perspective, I recommend either staying away or keeping it very low risk this week because it's very, very difficult to determine who might come out on top this week.
All right, so therefore, let's take a look at your board here of some potential options. As Brady said, smaller unit options this week. 12 to 1 being your small. Go ahead.
Right, and I looked basically, Craig, at current form and guys that have complementary skill sets. Both Morikawa and Kitayama are in good form. You look at Tom Hoge, he's a great ball striker. McNeely's a great putter. So guys that have complementary skill sets and are also in good form, I went with that formula.
All right, thanks, Brady, for coming on.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. A little story time here on the show from me, Craig Mish, here on NewsWire. So about a month ago, we were looking at getting a new alarm system installed in my house. And we were told that we had our alarm system hooked up to our landline phone, our home phone. And until we altered that, we couldn't install a new alarm. So we were like, what are we using our landline for? Nothing. All right, so let's just hook up this new system to, of course, our internet. And that led us to actually saving some money for eliminating our landline phone. Now, the reason why I tell this story is because this makes no sense whatsoever. Mel Kiper Jr., it's one thing if you don't want to get in the new age or the old age of cell phones, okay? Look, I get it. I understand it. But what are you doing with 5 landlines? This is a legit story told by Todd McShay, who covers the NFL draft, along with Mel Kiper Jr. Now, Mel Kiper Jr. is an icon in this industry for the NFL draft. He's been doing it for how long? I don't know, 30 years, 40 years? He's been doing it as long as I can remember. So the story goes that Mel Kiper does not have a cell phone, but has 5 different landlines in his house. Now, I don't even understand. Now, I read the story a couple times. I still don't understand why this is possible. And it's to be able to field different calls from different people over the course of the year and to give dedicated lines, essentially, to different people when they need to speak to him. But can't you just accomplish all this via text or a cell phone? Beats me. I'm trying to think, like, maybe he just needs to go back to the beeper era. Maybe like remember the Motorola Talkabout where you could just like with your little BlackBerry go back and forth here. Mel, come on, man. Like, you don't even need a cell phone, but 5 different landlines here too. Like, how about email? Send this dude an email. But apparently McShay, in order to get a hold of Mel Kiper, has to text the wife who has a cell phone, and then he gets a call back from one of the landlines. It's a true story, by the way. Here, I can't make it up. My story was true too. Now, I don't have a landline anymore. That's it. I just got a cell phone. I'm blowing all this money on landlines every week. Didn't make any sense. Okay, now, for those of you who have kids like I do, and you're thinking about what sport potentially maybe to put your child in as an athlete of some kind, maybe you're thinking of basketball or you're thinking of baseball or soccer. Soccer's very popular. Pickleball, something else. Let me introduce you to my idea. Put them in golf. Miles Russell. He is 15 years old. 15 years old. He is the youngest golfer to finish top 25 at a PGA Tour event in history. Now, let me say this again. He is 15 years old, hitting them with everybody else. On Friday, he was the youngest player to make the Korn Ferry Tour. For those unfamiliar, it's the PGA Tour's developmental tour for players who are not yet of age, breaking a record that was last set in 2006 by someone named Gipper Finau. So essentially, this is one for the Gipper. If you remember, they probably don't even know. If you're streaming, you have no idea what I'm talking about there. But anyway, Saturday during his third round at Lakewood Golf Course, he had a 1 under 70 before finishing the final round with a 5 under. Folks, he shot a 66 on a PGA Tour event as a, what would we say at 15? As like a freshman in high school? Junior at best in high school? Maybe even middle school? No, probably high school in some way. So again, my recommendation to those of you, you're thinking of putting your kid because you want to get him in the NFL or the NBA or some soccer league or whatever, get him on over to that PGA Tour because this can happen. Honestly, this is a story right here. 15 years old. A minor league PGA Tour, not yet. And again, we've seen these phenoms before happen in all sports where the name gets brought up at a young age and then we never hear from them again, or it just doesn't work out. And there's a lot of pressure, by the way, on kids too to succeed at this age. Believe me, I see it as well. But that would be my highest recommendation if you're thinking about doing something. Get them playing golf. My gosh, you really can succeed at that age. All right, that will do it for our show here on NewsWire today. Hope you enjoyed those 2 little stories here at the end of the show and my personal one as well. Thanks again to Kyle Irving for coming on the program talking some NBA. Also, Matthew Waters from Legal Sports Report. And, of course, Brady Kannon here on SportsGrid talking some golf. As a reminder, I'm back with you tomorrow morning for our next show, 11 a.m. Eastern, for our next edition of NewsWire, where we'll recap everything happening in the National Basketball Association. And naturally, because it's a Wednesday, we'll have some afternoon baseball to preview with you, as well as the Stanley Cup playoffs, which are going on right now as well. Also, thanks to our producer, Michael, our associate producer, Frank, and thanks to all of you for streaming and watching us here on SportsGrid each and every day. I'll see you tomorrow morning for our next edition of the show at 11 a.m. We've got the early line coming up next, followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock Eastern, and then use us as your second screen for sports betting if you're watching the NBA, NHL, baseball, or anything else. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And by the way, for those of you who celebrate, happy Passover to all of you as well. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, here on SportsGrid.